You don't know, you don't have to drive to work anymore, so there, you're lucky.
I'm open one door behind you.
Alright, or, we'll go ahead.
There you go. They haven't been open for a while, so.
Yes.
Always. Think it's a win. We have our handheld. Oh, yeah. that's good call. Is that in here?
Brian has said that he has so many problems with the lines. I think there's no stop.
Anyone know how this works?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Are we good on the audio too?
Very good.
All right. So, we have a bit of a late crowd today due to the spring break. A lot of people are out, some other people are sick. The audio recording.
That's a DC stuff.
All right. So for the audio recording, commission members we have here, we have Eddie, Vic, Kelly, Sarai, Shelley, Nina, Deb, myself, Sid, Pam. We have our special guest of the evening, Officer Foley, and then we have also councilpersons Diane Tripp, Matthew Starr, and community member Maggie Parker, Mira, and Holger. So a nice mix. Our agenda is, like I said, a little bit lighter today. We're not going to be going through memos. There are some people who couldn't comment on that. They can listen to the presentation video. Later or now, we have a day for her. So I wanted to let you go first and just be respectful of your time that you go first. And I guess if you could start with your presentation to help us understand the basics. And then we can do a question and answer. Does that work? Sure. Okay. You need to present. Would it be possible to project? Yeah. All right, getting over.
And I'm the only one taking notes, right? I don't want to duplicate.
We are minutes taker.
No, I.
Okay. So I kind of wanted, or what I brought for you. This is a 5-year projection of the village financial statements. 2017, 2018 are actual numbers, and 2019 through 2023 are plan numbers. So I kind of wanted to run through, this is the general fund only. This is the fund that accounts for pretty much, it's the catch-all of the village. It doesn't, anything that's sewer related is not here, it's in its own place. Anything that's water line related is not here, it's in its own place. But the main services of the village, the police department, the EMS, the pool, everything administrative is all here. So kind of going through real quick our main revenue streams. Property taxes, those are the houses or the, homes, not income tax. Of your property tax bill, only a very small portion of it actually comes to your village. The bulk of property taxes do go to the schools. They go to the county, the zoo, lots of places there. Municipalities are primarily funded through income tax. They are not primarily funded through property taxes. So you can see it's not nearly as large of a revenue source as the income tax, which is the next line below it.
With the increase in housing, why is that not going up?
I was wondering the same thing.
The tip.
The property taxes, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah, because of the tip. They're gonna go into its own separate fund.
is that on here?
It's not on this one. We actually got the first, payment of it in beginning of March. So here's the money that's coming in from the property taxes and the new homes. And the first 4 million of this, if you recall, goes back to MI for redoing the dam,
Goes back to them for what?
for the dam. So we just made it to them about $86,000. That's what the first one was. That's based on property taxes that were as of January 1st, 2018.
So that item cost $4 million.
I don't remember what the exact number was. There's a ledger. Yeah, ish.
Before you get too far into this, can I ask you a couple questions? Because I already my head around the framework. What fiscal year is being used for this? Is it calendar, is July? Okay, it's calendar.
Municipalities operate on a calendar.
Okay, and who is involved exactly in the budget projection process?
Primarily me, but the department heads are involved, the police chief, the fire chief, the mayor, anybody that has something that they kind of oversee and have the expenses for, but I'm the primary driver of it.
So what, the things that they're directly related to get carved off and maybe their draft, and they feed it to you, and you set up the.
What we kind of do
master?
is say end of August, early September, I have a
So
conversation.
you start
with them.
then, okay, good.
We talk about what they want to do as far as equipment being replaced, any changes and expenses, if things are going to be kind of the same as they were this year, if they've got anything new that's coming up, any capital expenses, which are major expenses that they want to see. It's kind of like the wish list to start with, and then we start there, and then we can compare it back based on what we think is actually going to be available.
That actually takes me to another thing I was sort of curious about. My experience with budgets is through my work life, and I had a budget for 5 years was $2 million, and I worked for a social services agency at the time, and we were responsible for including in our budget projections both income and expense, anticipated as well as confirmed, and we had to have an expense line that was called depreciation. I worked for the Lutherans, and they were very particular about that, and I wondered about that because there are certain things that exist that are going to wear out.
Right.
And I wonder why we don't have that. I'm just curious.
As a village, we operate on the cash basis of the county. Depreciation is an accrual factor. Schools, larger municipalities, counties, they do operate on, well, they don't operate on, they operate annually on a cash basis, but then their financial statements are converted into an accrual basis. So those larger entities, you will see depreciation and actual capital assets, receivables, payables, all of those things. We're small, and the state recognizes that financially that's not feasible for us to operate that way. And the cost to convert is not worth the cost of so many of the smaller municipalities. So we do not have to operate that way. We only operate on cash basis.
And does city council approve the budget once it's fully generated?
Yes, they do.
And at the end, and is there a monthly process where a variance of above or below 5% for income and expense has to be explained?
We've not had that in the past, no.
I just wondered. I'm almost done. Because I'm dying to talk to you, and I'm sorry I couldn't make the meeting that you had recently, because I thought that would have been a good time, but I couldn't do it. Is there a list somewhere of the definitions of each one of these revenue and expense line categories? Because I'm curious about what is included. Do you have an established list, or is it just understood among the
We
people?
actually operate on, the state prescribes, it's called the Uniform Chart of Accounts. So any municipality that operates on the system, I think, I want to say 60% of townships and villages in the state operate within the state's framework. So you can go to any one of them and you can look and it's the same account numbers throughout. So yes, I don't have it available online, but I can definitely get that because that would be great information.
I'm interested in that, I am. Because the point is, you can guess, and then, please be honest with what you're gonna say. There's a lot of concern and interest in the things that we're exploring, or what's gonna generate, new expenses, or shifting expenses, and, there's lots of questions about it, and so, and we genuinely wish there were more people here, don't we, Bree? Because a lot of the people are bringing up questions that none of us can answer, probably you're the only one that could really good answer them.
And it is recorded, so definitely people.
Yes.
And I'm available if you want, if anybody wants to email me or give me a call, I am happy to answer questions anytime.
Okay.
Really.
And
I don't have
we
any more
have,
questions.
well, we have new guests who are not usually here, so just, I'm gonna pause for them. If you have something that you wanna say or ask a question, I try to keep an eye out, just raise your hand, I'll try to get you in. If I don't see everyone who is facing you, does a good job of finding me out, but just throw your hand and we'll, not like there's 40 of you, we'll try to get your questions. Dan, I saw that you had.
Oh, I just wanted to say that, you asked a question about, does anybody, if there's a variance,
Yeah.
okay, on a monthly basis? Well, our finance committee, the council does have a finance committee, that all committees, as you know, have a chair and 2 council members. So we look at we have a meeting monthly, and we look over just that. So we do that. I mean, this council is doing it.
That's great,
That's all I could speak to.
because the truth is, sometimes your projection might be too low, or it might be too high, but it's just good to keep an eye on it and have a system in place, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, totally.
Thanks for sharing.
And I think that I'm very impressed with Kim as our fiscal officer, and I don't know if she's shared her background with you, but it might help you get more comfortable
Yes.
with if you could share where you come from and your experience.
I have been in governmental accounting my entire career. When I graduated college, I started working for the state auditor's office, doing audits of governments. I was there for about 5 years and then moved from the state into a private firm. I actually worked for Julie Group up here in Westerville. And that was all governmental audits too. So I worked with several schools, counties, cities throughout the state, many of them with charters, and many of them without. So I am pretty familiar with what works and what may not work as well. From there, I went to the city of Pickerington. I was there for about 5 years as the tax administrator. So taxes are, let's call them, near and dear to my heart. And then I've been here since February 2017. So for about 20 years, I've been in government.
We're below your 5-year mark.
That seems to be about my average.
So I want to pause and I know that there's a couple questions, and I know that Kim has put together kind of presentation. I don't know if it would make sense to maybe walk through it and see if it answers your questions, and then if not, don't forget them. If you don't forget them, then we'll.
I just want to know she does taxes on the side.
Look.
Oh,
Family only. I don't want them that much.
This is not a question, this is where is the income tax line? I just didn't see.
Oh, this fund right here is only for the TIF. This is only the property
Yeah,
taxes
but
that are
the
coming in.
first slide, I
This is income taxes right here.
didn't-
Second line.
That does cover my
Okay.
question.
Is this-
I just missed it.
Is this large enough for everybody to see, or do I need to make it bigger? Okay.
Thank you so much, your answers were wonderful. I appreciate it.
Well, like I said, I do reserve the right to say, I don't know, and I'll get back to you. So, always, is that better?
Yes.
Yes, so that second line then, is income tax. We've projected about between 18 and 19. Since 2017 was the first year of people moving in over in the new subdivision. 2018, we did not see as much because if you remember, taxes are all 1 year behind. And the people that were moving in 17, they weren't here for a full year, so it was only a partial year and it's a year behind. So we expect to see revenues really coming in this year, and that so far is happening. We projected about a $100,000 increase between 2018 and 2019. We're still on target to hit that, but I don't like to say anything for sure or certain until we get closer to the end of April, because at this point, I don't know if it's because people were filing earlier, or if it is really additional money coming in. So we'll have a better idea of that in about a month or so, but right now we are on target to be possibly even above what we are projected for 2019 in income taxes. Intergovernmental revenue, this is, if you own your home, you have it's called a rollback, so 2.5% of your property taxes is abated by the state. So the state sends us that money as part of property taxes, so that's the biggest chunk of this intergovernmental. We also get money from the local government fund at the state level. This is the one that can follow the state politics. It used to be pretty substantial, and the state has cut it. So when you hear about the state balancing their budget, this is one of the ways they balance their budget, was by cutting what the local government fund gave to municipalities. So we've probably seen about a 50% reduction in that money from the state over the last 5 to 6 years. And of course, previously we had a state tax in the state of Ohio, and that's gone away. That would have also been intergovernmental. So I don't think, this only back 2017, a few years prior to that, we actually had quite a bit of money from the state tax, which of course is hit or miss depending unfortunately on who passes away. But we don't have that anymore either. So these are some of the things that, as Councilman Starr said in his post, where we were used to getting this money from the state, we no longer get that money. So that's just kind of the framework in which we're working now.
What is charges for services?
I was just gonna get to that. Charges for services is pool fees for revenues, EMS charges for services. When the medics make a run, the money that comes in from that. And also, this is our yeah, that is not enough. EMS billing, charges for services. When MI came in, they knew it was gonna cost us some engineering and some legal services to get everything up to stuff over there. And they didn't want us to be out that money. So we paid the money for engineering, for when they review the plats, when they review sewer tap inspections. We pay that money out and then MI reimburses us. So that's why after 2019, you see a drop off in that amount, because that should end. But after that, the bulk of that we made out from the EMS. Fines and forfeitures is where the mayor's court comes into play. Cable franchise fees, the three, Charter Communications and Ohio Bell, I think. They pay us a 3% franchise fee to have their services within our village. That is pretty stable source of income, is about $11,500 a year. Licenses and permits, these are, again, you see a big drop off between 19 and 20. The bulk of that is because this is, every time a house is built in MI, we get a $450 zoning permit fee. And that's here. So once that is gone, that revenue stream also goes away. Interest is obviously the interest the bank pays us. We have investments in certificates of deposit, and we're also invested in the state treasury asset reserve, which is called Star Ohio. That's an investment that's run by the state. It's a very safe investment. Obviously, the state doesn't want us investing in things that are risky, and I wouldn't be if we could. But right now we're in a pretty good, two places. We're in a good because we have a good fund balance, and we're also in a good interest rate period. So we've had the lowest CD we have right now is 2.1% interest, which when I started here, we were still under 1% in some of them. So that's really been nice. We have about 900,000 in CDs, and I think about 1.5 in Star Ohio, and then about 3 $300,000 to $400,000 in checking.
These one-year CDs.
Yes, they're on their CDs.
Like a rainy day fund.
No, it's the fund balance that hasn't been spent yet, a lot of which is going to be the sewer and the water tap fees that we're getting. Eventually, those balances will, at some point, the distribution come down. We don't have a rainy day fund as a separate fund per se. Our rainy day fund is what's considered the fund, our any fund balance. We carry over. I would point out, I know you can't see it on here, but in 2013, I think, interest for the year was $97. So just that's a comparison, you know, of really how far we've come in a short period of time. And then miscellaneous is kind of catch all for everything else. But the biggest thing we see in miscellaneous is we pay 3% to RETA to administer the income tax. If they don't use all that 3%, they refund it to us. And so far, the last several years, they have not actually cost 3%, so they send us a refund check back. BWC also usually sends us a refund back. So that's usually that's the bulk of that. It's kind of an unknown from year to year exactly what it's going to be, but so, or for the last several years, both of those have had refunds for us. So those are our primary revenue streams. Is there any questions on those?
I guess just to kind of clarify, it's not like you get all of this at once, like at tax season, right? This money trickles in over the course of the year.
The bulk of it is going to come in by the end of April, but people who have federal extensions, those are in October, so we do see another bump in October. And then people who have money withheld from their employers, that comes in monthly. So we get 2 payments a month from RETA.
How does that compare to other villages this size that you said in the government so long?
It depends. A lot of it depends on the type of tax base that you have, because a lot of villages this size do not have this kind of tax. A lot of villages that I work with this size are more rural. So smaller villages tend to be more rural, so they don't have higher tax bases because they don't have the industry, they don't have the, as an aside, we're considered a veteran community, which means our residents live here, we don't have our own businesses. Having the businesses, having, being able to collect the buildings from people that don't actually work here, that's really what we, in my opinion, if we want to have a tax credit in the future, this is really where we need to focus, because we really need to be driving revenue from somewhere that's not coming from the residents. We have to give it back. And in my personal opinion, if we end up with another school, that'll be a big driver in whether or not we have a tax credit.
That's true. Every employee there will be.
Exactly, whether they live here or not.
So all the businesses that want Cleveland and the ones that are still established, none of those employees get.
They do.
But it's such a small amount, and it's probably very difficult.
It's a small amount and it's,
Find them, particularly the turnover that you see in Cleveland.
right, let's say quality of business. What you really want to see are some long-term quality. You know, the best ones are like healthcare, you know, doctor's offices, lawyers, those kinds of things that are stable, long-term, higher paid professions.
Get the exit from the drug retail place or whatever.
We do. But it's had some mature we're in now 2 minutes.
You have any big ideas about where we can get some money?
I
like your idea.
I know that there are some, Star in particular has some thoughts on that. Hopefully, and unfortunately, that is a long game. It's not an overnight thing. So, but it's something that we really all need to be thinking about in the back of our heads.
Sure, Columbus and letting us annex the Huntington building across the street.
Yes.
Oh, all right, well,
On the revenue side,
So that's the money coming in, not the money going out.
money going out. The biggest money going out is going to be in your security of persons and property. This is your police and fire. Over half of, you can see we have 4.9 million coming in total projected. And of that 1.1 going out is related to police, medics, and these two are small, they're still considered security of persons and property. It's the street lights and then the new Wednesday siren. So, we do pay for that also. But the police is obviously welcome it and they're sure that.
Wednesdays at noon.
Me too, because I sit right there and meet them.
Is that new? Just out of curiosity, I didn't see the siren at $0.
That was a billing error on their part where they did not bill us in 17 and billed us for both years of 18. So 2,800 is the, is the pay.
And that's,
We don't maintain it. Franklin County maintains it, the Emergency Management Association maintains it. So. Everything pushes down to the municipality.
exactly.
Just like that.
The governor, several years ago,
Okay, so understandably, with this environment, the bulk of the money does go to police and medics. Public health and welfare, this is pretty small. We don't, because we're a village, we don't maintain our health department, but we do have services provided by the county. So we do pay a portion of our property taxes to the county health department, for those services. Other assistance to the needy, indigent burials, if someone were to die in the village and be indigent, the municipality is actually responsible for paying people for final expenses, burial expenses. We've not had that, up to $600 is the max, and we've not had that in the last few years, but I always budget for one just in case.
Yeah. That's state law.
Is this state law? Yeah. A lot of places, if you have, like a jail, a lot of places that have those have very significant expenses there, so we're fortunate there in that regard.
No jails in the new building.
And then the mosquito spraying. This year we wanted to increase what they're spraying, so that adds a pretty big jump from last year to this year. The mosquito spraying. The one that's, mosquito. Leisure time activities is the park, the mowing, and any different spaces, and also then the pool. You can see that's a big expense this year for the pool because we are going to do this pool also. Community environment is planning and zoning. These contractual services here, when I talked before about am I reimbursing us for some expenses, this is where they're paid from. Which again, then you'll see in 2019 and then 2020, it drops off. So this is the expense then that MI reimburses us for.
Why is personnel dropping down?
That is why, I'll get back to that. Okay, come back to that. And then the community environment is anything related to the lakes. It's also tree removal and leaf pickup. I think there's something else in there this year because it's. We had budgeted to do engineering services if you're going to dredge, but that's still in the air, so. Utility services, currently the storm sewers, that's maintained out of the general fund. We're looking at some options to not have that maintained out of the general fund anymore, moving it into its own fund, which is why it goes down to zero in the future. So the goal is to kind of get the storm sewers on a similar cycle as the sanitary sewers are, where a section of the village every year gets scoped and cleaned. So that, look for that later this year also. General government is all the administrative things. Mayor's office, council, mayor's court, finance, lands and buildings, property tax collection fees, our audit fees. We're actually moving to a 2-year audit cycle instead of a 1-year audit cycle this year. This is on the state's recommendations, so we actually won't have an audit this year, how about next year? So that's why this is zero this year and not.
I'm sure they're done such a great job, they decided that they need to do it every year.
The state, this is the first year the state's had us back. They contracted out, and then they brought us back in after 10 years. They looked to do that, and I think for their schedule it worked better too for us to be on a 2-year cycle. So I have no objections.
Very trustworthy.
Solicitor, the reason this is obviously higher this year is because of the commission's legal counsel. So this is not just the village solicitor, but also for that. Income tax administration, this is a 3% MSA that Rita charges us for the administration of it. Other contractual services, that's similar to, or any of our computer expenses, any of our, I think engineering might be in that one. Anything that kind of benefits the government as a whole and not specific to any particular department is in other general government.
Those contracts are new every year, there's any of
Contractual services is kind of a bigger, it's not just contracts. If you look at that uniform chart of accounts, it also includes postage is considered a contractual service. Phone service is considered, all of those types of things are considered contractual services. Yeah. Debt service, this is, we don't have anything coming out right now. This is just a projection, what, to kind of start thinking about the facility, and what's gonna happen there. So, that is already included, in projections.
You say so, I mean,
Yes.
capital outlay, 21,000.
We had talked about last year, Rise and buying some fountains. And we talked about also buying fountains for the lakes to piggyback off of the discount they were going to get. So I don't know where that's gonna land, but we did budget for that. Sale of fixed assets, we sold, when we replaced the police cruiser at the end of the year, we sold the, old one. So that's what that is. And then fund balance. So,
Yeah.
Do we really need to replace, we have like 4 cruisers now?
Yes.
Why do we need 4 cruisers?
well, I will defer to the police chief on that, but he says that we do, so I agree with him. However, I do know that they're not just sitting there, they are, when they're on shift, they're running. They're always on, they don't shut them off. So when the cruiser's on, it's on 8 hours a shift. So the engine wear is pretty significant on them. A 4-year schedule seems to be a pretty good replacement schedule for us. So, but I defer to him on specifics on it.
I can speak very briefly to that. They live a very short, hard life because of the type of driving that they're under. They're on constantly, and for the time that they're on, they sit idling a lot, and then all of a sudden they accelerate to maximum, and then go, and then brake to nothing, and then sit for long periods of time. Combine that with the fact that the previous set of vehicles underwent a lot of deferred maintenance, and we ended up needing a number of vehicles in a shorter period of time. So we're now on the other side of that. We have 4 good vehicles, and so it was a lot of money in a reasonably short amount of time, but at least we're on the other side of it now.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Where is, these expenses and the maintenance, the planned regular maintenance and, potential repairs of the vehicles being?
They are, one of the things I don't like about how this chart of accounts works is supplies and materials is kind of a misleading,
Yeah.
because it's not always supplies and materials, but it's only, thanks, Megan. That not only is it supplies and materials, but it's also repairs and maintenance
Okay.
is included in this category.
Question, I got 2 questions. One is, what changes can we make in the charter that would make your job easier or the village finances better? That's what question 1. Question 2, it looks like if we're paying $4 million for the dam and the TIF is $300,000 to $400,000, is it 10 years before we get any TIF money?
We're projected about
8 years.
from this year.
Okay. If we did a new community building, where would that money come from?
Wait, you said the TIF will bring in 300 to 400,000.
Isn't that right?
That's a million.
A year.
A year?
A year, oh.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. A year.
I was actually, that's what you say.
I meant total, I'm like, okay, I can see what you're asking about.
The facility that was down here. So yes, right now it is budgeted down
Where is that? Capital outlay?
debt service.
And how about the changes that we could do in the charter that would make the village more efficient or your job easier?
Well, it's not exactly financial related, but one of the things that would make it easier, and I don't know if you've seen this in other charters, there's certain resolutions and certain ordinances that, as you may know, when you pass something as an emergency, I mean, it goes into effect immediately. But the word emergency is really so misleading as a word, as a term. There are some resolutions that it would be nice if the charter could say, these types of resolutions go into effect immediately. They don't have to be passed as an emergency because that's just what they are. For example, right now we confirm police officers when they're hired. We have to do that as an emergency, and it's not an emergency, but it's just timing of hiring someone. So it would be nice if something like that was, this is in effect immediately. It doesn't have to wait for 30 days.
Sort of like the way financial things are now.
Right.
And the state said that those can go into effect immediately. Exactly. We would just do it, maybe identify a couple others in the
You
charter.
can do carve-outs, do a longer.
That's very good feedback.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah, because I do know that a lot of, we have heard a lot of feedback in the past that, oh my goodness, so many things are passed by emergency, but they're not emergencies. It's just,
Right.
that's what you have to call them because that's what the state calls them. So that's the biggest thing that I would like to see to make my job.
How about bidding limits?
I know places that have had small ones, I know places that have had big ones. We don't have so many huge projects that, 50,000 is probably a little low, but I don't see a need to have it like hundreds of thousands either. If it could be 100,000, that might be reasonable.
So you're
We
saying,
don't have so many big projects that
It's not really a thing.
it's not so time consuming. We'll have one, maybe two this year.
so you're saying you would think that it should be under $100,000, there's no required bidding.
That there would be no requirement to advertise it for the 3 weeks and go out and do it that way. I would assume that most places, or most of the council would assume that we're still gonna get quotes, still gonna get the lowest and best bid, but you don't necessarily have to go out for 3 weeks and have it formally bid.
What do other charters do on that? Anybody know?
Not 100,000.
Seems high.
A lot of them I looked at was a lot lower than that, I thought.
Really.
Yeah. Maybe we can find that out.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna write something in, I would just, 50,000, it seems like it's our sweet spot right now, but that's just this year. I mean, costs go up and down, that's the problem with that. And they're, just the cool thing, if it were 60, then, but, so it can be a hindrance, but that's this year, maybe it's 60, next year, costs go up or down, it could be, because as Kim says, we don't do a lot, but I would just make sure you put in other constraints, not just that number, but also that you do require 3 to get 3 bids.
So like a minimum number of bids, not a minimum dollar.
Because there's no, we make it a requirement, just out of principle, to try to get 3 bids, if 3 bids exist in the neighborhood, but it's not written down anywhere, we have to. And
And I think that one of the things that we try to keep in mind in our discussions is we're not writing a charter for the next 5 years, we're writing for the next 50 or 100, right? So if we put a dollar amount on things, we've been cautioned by multiple parties that what makes sense today may not make sense in 2 years from now, so we try to stay away from that kind of thing, but
And the reality is, even with bidding, like when we bid the George Road Sewer project, we bid it, we had 2 bids.
So I guess that's my question then, in your experience both in and out of Mineral Park, does that formalized bidding process actually make things more fair and transparent, or is it kind of an archaic concept?
It depends on, it really depends on what it is. Projects like streets and like sewers, it's a more fair project. But what you end up seeing is in good times you get a lot of bidders and in bad times you get very few. And like in that particular project, we could tell that one place wanted it, one place was like, oh, we'll bid on this, and if we get it, great, we'll make a profit on it. And if we don't, then whatever, because their bid was so much higher than the other.
Would
So
we,
just-
would to, is there a time limit on presenting bids on a project, and then would it help to say, there's X amount of time to turn the bid in, if not, then you go on with the project and choose the bidder?
So right now, the statutory requirement is you have to advertise for at least 3 consecutive weeks. So, and then you have, it ends up being a 22-day period. So you have, because you can't, after your 3rd consecutive week, you have to wait 7 days before you can open bids. So you have, week 1, week 2, week 3, and then one more week, and then you go with them.
So if we set up a minimum number of bids and set up a minimum of time, and only 2 bidders came through, then you could continue on.
Right, right, and that's what we did with this project. We had to, and we chose the lowest best.
That would take care of the minimum bid problem.
When you talk about a higher amount, are you thinking, considering it in terms of what types of projects would allow for a higher minimum bid amount?
I'm sure you could.
Would that be useful if you put it in a charter or not really? Because you can't really tell it.
Like I said, it's not something that I deal with so frequently, but it's been an inconvenience so far. And if we're somebody that was doing a lot of projects, then I might say differently, but
Okay, we worry, well, we have $75,000 and without any kind of bidding, and we said, I really want that X, Y, Z. And I don't have to bid it out, and I can ram it through. And then
Has it been your experience working with different municipalities and entities that when a project is under the bid floor, the people are still generally responsible about trying to seek the good price and do the right thing?
yeah. And contrary to popular belief, most people that are in government actually do want to be efficient and save as much as they can. I know that that's somewhat said in jest, but
So you had said before for, municipalities working without charters, and there's some things that are better than others. Just in your experience working with both, what would you say were the good ideas, bad ideas, things that you wish you'd seen, things that you hadn't seen kind of thing? And you don't have to speak necessarily specific to general.
one thing I would like to see, because I understand that you guys have decided to go with the mayor manager form of government. I would highly encourage to please define that well enough so that me, for example, who's my boss? Like, if the mayor and the manager are both, both considered my boss, but they don't agree on something, who am I supposed to listen to? So having like an actual defined,
Starting one master.
exactly. So please keep that in mind, because that's one entity in particular that was a big conflict when the mayor and manager didn't agree and who you made those decisions.
Or because under just the regular way now, you report to the mayor.
Yes, and I have no preference on which way it goes. We would love to see it
Just one,
defined.
yes.
What else? What,
Let me flip back real quick to the question you had about the code enforcement. This particular forecast or projection, I kind of did this with the manager form of government in mind. So with a reduced role of the mayor, having a manager, this is projected to have a full-time manager. And salary and benefits are included in here in 2020 forward. It also kind of assumed that the planning function would be reduced because the MI would be gone, and that potentially a manager may have some economic development planning experience that you can also bring in and fall into that function as well. So that's why that decreased because we were expecting the planning function to decrease some anyway when MI went away. But then some more of that being rolled into possibly managerial function.
I'm sure it's in here, but I haven't seen, haven't focused on it. What we're paying our planner now, is that gonna be about the same that you projected for the manager?
Roughly, part-time versus full-time.
So Eric is only part-time,
Right.
and he's what, 80,000 something?
I don't remember what his salary rate is, like 37 something.
He's on an hourly rate? Okay.
And he works about 20 hours a week.
So you're projecting that a full-time person for $40 an hour, so.
I projected it about 70 to 75,000. Per year,
On the 70?
70 to 75.
And then that doesn't include benefits.
That does not, but they are accounted for in this projection with the employee plus 2 children is what I generally use to project, if I don't know.
What are you projecting for the mayor? Just what they're being paid now?
No, because I was, in this projection, the mayor is significantly less, it's about a $500 a month, 6,000 a year. Because theoretically, if the mayor was, I don't want to say a figurehead because I know you want more than that, but if they're more delegating their administrative responsibility to a manager, they won't be here as much, they won't be as involved. So that was just my guesses. This is not, just to give you an example.
Is there a systematic process in the course of a 12-month period between budget times that if there's a significant change, that it can be formalized? We didn't have this expense at all, and suddenly we do, and this expense went down, we didn't expect it to. How does that work exactly?
Usually what I do is some point in the summer, kind of look at everything that's gone on year to date so far, and we do a big, it's called an adjustment,
Yes.
appropriation adjustment for, hey, we thought we were gonna spend this and we end up not having to, so we can reallocate that money somewhere else. So usually at some point in the summer, we do like a mid-year review and kind of, if we know something else is coming, increase that. We know we're not gonna need something else, decrease that.
Who makes that decision?
I recommend it, the council approves it.
And it's usually sometimes done when there's fund transfers by resolution.
Before MI built, was our income tax going up or down?
It was going up slightly, which was not uncommon with everyone else in the area because we were coming out of the recession then. So it was starting to come back up, but it had not gotten back up to pre-recession levels.
So I have some questions that Paul asked me, he's not going to ask for you. His first one was, after funds are approved, it's more, how does it work today? So we understand, but after funds are approved by council, does the mayor have full discretion on how to spend those funds? In other words, if 35,000 is approved by council, does the mayor just, I guess how does it work at that level?
Okay, so the answer is it depends.
Okay.
On what it is. So contractual services, we might know, okay, say, for example, we knew that we were going to spend money on the pool walls. So we say, okay, $75,000 is what we're going to spend. Does the mayor have the authority to go out and spend $75,000 now? Council has to approve the contract with that. So the council gives the mayor the authority to sign the contract to spend $75,000. If it's something like office supplies, yeah, we have the authority with him. So if it's something, the smaller things, the more day-to-day things, yes, the administration has discretion on how to administer the budget. If it's something that requires contractual services or contract, then no. Generally, that comes back to council.
And then, kind of like, I think maybe already touched on that anyways. Does the position of mayor today have the ability to spend village funds without the approval of council? If yes, what's the threshold? Is it frequency of dollar amounts?
Yeah, that kind of goes back to the same thing.
And then let's move to question 2. is finance director required to be an employee of the village by law or contracted, like how does that work?
I think you have a good point. I think the.
Well, does it have to be an employee of the village, or can it be a contractual, like our law firm is a contract?
Oh, you're talking about regular employee versus independent contractor?
Yes.
Eyes.
That's my question. Thank you.
I know that there was at some point, several years ago, to make it an employee versus an elected official. But beyond whether it can get contracted.
I would be kind of surprised if there's a statute dictating that it has to be a regular employee. That would be weird.
You got a big role in the state law. So I would, maybe at this point, but you're right, maybe.
I'm gonna kind of run up, something else I kind of want to mention, as far as how things actually work now, we're gonna potentially, currently the fiscal officer is the clerk of council also, but the reality is I don't do a lot of the clerk of council related things. So if clerk of council duties can kind of be broken out to be appointed to a person, it can be appointed to the fiscal officer, that's fine if it changes, but right now the administrative person does a lot of shoot the minutes and the,
That's actually,
things, yeah, right.
that's very helpful because we have not even really gotten the council section in depth, so.
So
I think we have a
if the duties of the clerk of
Yes,
council,
we do.
if they can just be broken out as separate, and if, like I said, they get assigned to the fiscal officer or administrative or whatever, that's fine, but if they can be broken out separately, so they could be assigned elsewhere.
In the current draft, it is. So in the current draft, we've got the clerk of council has its own subsection, and they can appoint whoever they want. Like you said, they can appoint the fiscal officer to do it as in addition to their other duties, but they certainly don't have to. They can appoint anyone.
Yeah, because like I said, in reality, I don't really do a lot of those duties.
And then the other question again, is not mine, so I'm gonna ask. Jen doesn't think of our, already as well. Along the same vein, I mean, I think it's just something that people are worried about is there anything that could be preventing the mayor or an administrator from spending out of the general fund, even if it's only up to a certain amount of this threshold? I guess what's the check and balance there as far as what the mayor can entertain on spending on? Large things make sense, but where's that at?
The check right now is council appropriates the money. So that regardless, it can't be spent beyond what's appropriated. If the mayor or administrator, whoever spends indiscriminately, they're gonna run out of money at some point. They're gonna have to come back and say, I need more money, and the council's gonna say, well, why do you need more money? And then have this option to say, no, because that was stupid. So, that's the check.
At one time, there was discussion about credit cards. Does anyone look at credit card statements to see that
Well,
one's
you
not?
say that, because literally, there was just a state law that's passed, so you're actually gonna see going through council right now, we just have first reading on it. An updated credit card policy to make these changes in line with what the state came down with. The way that we are going to, there's two different options of how to run them, and the way that I believe we're gonna go is there will be what's considered what's called a compliance officer, who is someone who is not authorized to use a credit card, who would be reviewing those statements quarterly. And I think right now we're looking for it to be the finance chair. Is probably what we're more about that.
We're not going to hire another person.
Of course not.
Although I think the Jennifer part.
For the right price, right?
Other questions?
So you mentioned at the beginning that the mayor prepares a budget and talks to you before this final budget. So is that a written proposal? Like, you know, the governor would say, well, I have a written budget, puts it out there. Does anybody see a written budget?
Finance, it goes to finance first, finance committee first.
So there's something in writing, and it goes to the council members, and the mayor says, here's what I propose to spend for the upcoming budget.
Technically, it does come from the mayor, but we don't, she doesn't present it as a,
There's nothing that needs in writing.
but yes, it is in writing, it goes through finance, but it's not presented by the mayor, exactly.
Right.
So, just kind of to be clear about that, when we do the appropriations every year,
So the council has an idea of what the mayor is thinking in terms of spending.
Right, and that's the process that we start August, September. They go through finance in September and October, and then hits council in November.
I know some of the charters that we've got as samples lists preparation of a proposed budget as one of the affirmative duties of the mayor that they have to do yearly, and they have to present it to council and all of that. I'll be honest with you, I'm not done with the proposed draft yet, so I'm still kind of looking through all of those different boilerplate options, but I know there was at least one that I looked at that had that as one of the affirmative duties of the mayor.
I think there's one that has it.
Yeah, I think that.
What's the, then you have to say, who you get, and the administrator, manager, or the mayor.
I think it depends on kind of charter list.
Yeah,
Where they
it
don't
did.
make it. Somebody initially had it.
Right, and then other charters were silent, like it just wasn't a, line item responsibility. So,
You can tell we're just trying to understand.
Oh, absolutely. And I-
Day-to-day operations, are there two signatures, my frame of reference is government and social services, and I'm wondering if there has to be two signatures on any check. That's helpful. Fun, really. You're having fun. You're so charter here. You know, I know.
You guys run, do you like just operating under state law, or do you have a desire to say, no, it really works better under a charter? And I don't know, if you have,
I
prefer charters.
because they can be more tailored to the government. And they're a lot easier to change than state law. So if you find something that's not working, then it's a lot easier to change a charter than it is to lobby the state.
I'll say,
What would be an example of something that's better under charter to change state law?
Well, just for example, I was talking about like those resolutions as an emergency. Like that just seems silly to me at the state level to have a police officer that has to wait 3 readings plus 30 days before they can accept a dog.
well, it's such an easily misconstrued
Yes.
word and term, and so a lot of people get really, I'll be honest, I'm a lawyer and I get upset about it when I first.
And school levies are the same way. There's emergency school levies, they're not emergencies. The difference between at a school level, the difference between an operating levy and an emergency levy is an operating levy is a sort of mill on all property. An emergency levy is gonna generate $1 million every year, but the millage changes, like your house number changes, but it's always gonna generate the same amount of dollars. That's the difference, that's an emergency. That's what it's called, an emergency levy. And that's just mind blowing to me that that's.
That's why I'm not.
I'm not in finance because I'm horrible at that.
You know, the things that you're sharing and the way you're answering our questions, you clearly have a firm understanding of what your job is. And it makes me wonder, because of places that I've worked in test, when I walked into jobs and there was no standard operating procedure how-to manual. And it makes me wonder if you have been involved in writing anything like that. Because people don't stay in jobs forever.
Well, interestingly, I actually, in my old job at Pickerington, I did do that. I basically wrote a policy, or not policy manual, but a
Procedure manual. Yeah.
for my job because I was actually going to be on maternity leave. And
Somebody else had to do it.
I have to do it. So I did write that there. And with this position, it's some of it's a little different because at least with the software and the actual procedures that way, because it's the state that drives it, the state has manuals there, and there is a village officer's finance team or a village officer's handbook that does have some things in it, but it's not specific necessarily to Heber, but it's the state law within the state's framework.
So would you see any benefit to that? In addition to what you described? This, because some things be a little different. We have a charter.
Well, I don't necessarily think that having them in a charter would be necessary.
No, not in the
Okay,
charter,
okay. But as I say,
The difference between the charter and then state statutory, would that change anything for you that would, anybody that would be in that job?
yeah, sure.
I think what you're asking is if we had a charter, would it then make sense? It's not necessarily doing state statute,
No.
everything to write an SOP.
Yes. Yes,
mandate the
Make it
departments,
more
right?
efficient.
SOP.
yes.
And so hopefully the charter's gonna do that.
I do like, anything that makes anything more efficient is a good thing.
And that was one of our driving.
So when you see charters, there's a lot of state law about your position and law. Do charters should say, according to the state, here are the things that are different, so does it still, I mean, I can't imagine the charter.
I wanna say
doing
that
something.
the charters that I've seen that just follow state law are just silent regarding something that they don't specifically say according to follow state law. They either are silent on it or they say it's whatever council prescribes. So some of the ones I've seen are very vague and giving a lot of authority back to council.
You want to ask us anything?
Yeah, really. Yeah, what are, any sort of efficiencies of goal, what other goals are you looking for the charter?
Clarity. I mean, that just leads hand in hand, right?
Balance of power.
Increased communication
Yeah,
and
transparency.
transparency.
Could you give us some language on dealing with the resolution of the emergency situation? Could you give us some suggested language?
I'm trying to think of the ones that I read. I don't even know if it had specific language other than the fact that it said if it fell under, if it was something like A, B, or C, then it only required one reading and it was effective immediately. But I'm trying to remember what, it might be different in charter even, that's where I saw that.
We have to figure it
So that's state, that's a state need to do it.
It is not.
No.
I think that our attorney provided us with, one that carves out the exceptions for, medical emergency, there's a list of them, the police employment, and one of these has in it, if I really think so.
What other financial best questions? As we're drafting it, I mean, understanding is great, as we're drafting it, is there anything, I guess if we're thinking more general, more specific, why, what kind of questions do we have on that route?
You know what, real simple question, I'm sure there's some people, other people in the room that know the answer to this, but I'll admit that I don't. If I wanted to pull that up somewhere, how would I do it? Where would I go?
I'm all that.
It looks like the one that I think council gets, they publish every month. So it's one of the printout versions.
Departments, fiscal. This is the most recent one. I'm gonna put another one up here at the end of March.
I think I have found this before.
Okay, so here's the forecast. These are ever changing. And these are not required by state law either, just so you're aware. This is just something we do internally in-house.
And those have all the tabs on the bottom of the one.
It's a PDF, but it has all the different funds.
But you know how.
Which one did you-
There's a bunch of tabs on
Because
the
it was an
bottom.
Excel spreadsheet.
Pages, each have a page.
Yeah, so this is the most recent one on Upset was all, but, so this is the general.
That's the
fund.
same thing, just slightly formatted
Yeah.
for PDF.
Yeah. If you wait about a week or so, like I said, then I'll have the one, for the end of March, and it will not have the, it won't be the one I just showed you, because it's so gonna be based on as if the charter is not approved at this point. So, but I just, like I said, I just want to give you an example of.
So if you were looking at how the village spent money, say in the past 3 or 4 years, has it been fiscally prudent with its spending based upon budget projections? That, we showed the projections.
I
So
kind of,
3 or 4 years ago, we go back and, I don't know.
I don't know, several years ago, I don't know, because I don't know who's here, but I can tell you that the person that's here before me, you were really lucky to have him too. Because he was a very big deal at the state government level, and was a rehired person here. And he really knew his stuff, and really knew he was doing, he did a lot of good for this village.
And I'm not saying,
But I know him beyond that, so as far as him, yes, I know he was very fiscally responsible, and I just beyond that, I just don't know.
so you have, go on, sorry.
There's someplace on the website that would allow a citizen to understand the restrictions on the TIF.
Not that I'm aware of. The TIF itself, I think, is, where it was approved legislatively is on here, but it's not exactly layman friendly. It's very legalese.
Isn't the tip just the real estate taxes that are collected, put in a special fund?
And then they have restrictions on how they
And
can
what
spend. They have
are
to
the
spend on.
restrictions? Where would you go to find the
Let me
restrictions?
see if I can find that real quick. Government legislation.
How many bids did we get for the dam?
I'm sorry,
How many bids did we get for the dam? 4 million, that was part of the contract.
we didn't.
That was,
It was-
I was gonna say, so actually, kind of have a question about the dam, and it's because I wanna learn more about how the village did this process with MI Homes to see if we can learn from it. So that dam is a $4 million-ish project. But it's wrapped up in the MI Homes deal, so it's not the Village of Monroe Park's separate project?
It is. So basically what they did, and you'll have to forgive me because the TIF and everything was approved before I started, so I was
Sure.
involved in all of that. We were going to have to do it. The state's coming in and saying, you have to do it, it's fair. And I said, we will do it as part of this development project. We will front the money to do it. You will reimburse us with the money that comes in from that. So
Okay,
we're ultimately paying for it.
so was
They front the
there,
money.
and if you don't know the answer, obviously that's fine. So then was there an ordinance passed by Minerva Park approving, yes, we will borrow $4 million to do this dam? Or was that project just a line item somewhere in the overall contract with MI Homes?
Yeah, so this is ordinance 4/2016, who's going to order. This is where the TIF was actually created.
And that tip is specifically for
The MI subdivision,
which, so then the dam project is wrapped up in that?
right?
Okay.
Where is the dam wrapped up in the sale of the property?
So
And that's
public,
what I'm trying, that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
public infrastructure improvements, this is what, when money comes in from this TIF, this is what the money is, can be spent on, that money that's coming in.
And that was ordinance for,
2016. CZ parks, roadways, essentially what it is anything that benefits the village, it's public improvements, it can't be spent on operating expenses, day-to-day things,
And this is all one ordinance, right?
yes.
Okay.
But then somewhere in here,
Can you do it fine?
that's what I'm gonna do.
Maybe dam.
Remediation.
Wasn't sure how many words had DAM in them.
Do we have any control over $4 million?
What do you mean?
Yeah, could MI have hired somebody for $2 million and charged us?
No, they had to submit all their receipts and expenses to legal, legals reviewed them all and legal, because they must get paid to pay.
Well, that's a good array of categories. It isn't just a dam.
No, it's not, and I know, that's something that council's definitely gonna have to start considering what exactly they wanna do with that, because
And so
8
this
years
is,
seems like a long time away, but reality is,
Right.
it's not, pace government moves, it's not that far.
so this is a 28-page ordinance, and that dam is only one section in that whole deal
Right.
for this. So this TIF is doing a lot of different things, right? Because so the single subject is creating this tax.
Right, and part of it is how the school has to be made whole, that's all in here.
it's not creating a tax, it's showing how the tax dollars.
It's exempting it from property tax and making it a payment in lieu of tax for the same amount.
Okay.
So they pay the annual property tax rate, but part of it then goes into, or all of it goes into the TIF?
So I actually had a conversation with the county auditor's office this week that, as far as the county is concerned, none of that property is on the property tax rolls, it's considered exempt property. However, there's payments that are made for the same amount that goes to the county. The county then divides up between us and the school and everybody else that would normally get, we get the same amount, it just gets divided differently.
So if we would have created, contracted to have a dam repaired, we would have had bids on it.
We would have had
But we lost the chance to have any kind of bid.
whatever. I don't know, I don't know what kind of bidding it went through, because that was.
But it was because it was handled by MI.
Right, I'm sure that
And presumably they were also part of their money, but
So I'm gonna just try to circle it back to the charter commission meeting, this is is it relevant to regular charter, or how does this tie in?
Well, I just want to say, the reason the dam had to be remediated is because that property's gonna have houses and people
I
down
understand
there.
that.
So I think MI wants it to be done well, so I don't think that they were messing around by doing it on the cheap.
I wasn't,
Okay,
for what it's worth, I was asking the questions I was because she had mentioned the dam project, early in the meeting, and so it became an easy focal point. But looking at this ordinance and everything that it's doing, I think is absolutely relevant for us to be thinking about when we're writing the rules on what an ordinance has to have, or the rules about how to pass ordinances, things like that. I'll be honest, I'm kind of rethinking some stuff right now, from back in the legislative article.
And probably would, if I'm correct, okay, maybe it might have been, and nobody's going back and saying, right, that decision, but maybe it would have been better to bid out the dam, get a price, and we would, be doing guarantees, the person who built the dam, we didn't guarantee the people down the thing, down river. So maybe we would not allow some kind of resolution that allows the TIF to take money from something which, no, we might have made a bad business decision paying $4 million to build a dam. We might have made a great.
Right. There were other, but I think there are other ways to do it though, too. They didn't have to take $4 million from MI Homes, they could have gotten $4 million from somewhere else.
well, let me
A bond or whatever.
plan, if I may. We are restricted by, state law what our debt, debt margin is. Yes,
Uh-huh.
thank you. It's 10.5% of the property tax value. It's under $4 million. So
Okay.
we couldn't borrow for it.
we could not have, even with the voting
so
on
we
it.
have no choice in a sense to go ahead and have to do it.
Well, it depends on the other bid.
Right, yeah. So,
Interesting.
We can ask her that when he comes.
Right. Like I said, it's less about the dam itself, because like, you're right, it wasn't 2016, it was a process that went into this ordinance, how it was wrapped up into the MI project, and so it kind of bypassed the bidding, and that's a lot of money that's getting spent on, I guess, a majority household, right?
Right.
So, yeah, just food for thought, I guess, kind of understanding the consequences of the things that we're writing.
Anything else that you can think of, fiscal officer, or a charter? Don't do this, it's a terrible idea, I've seen that, or do, this is a great idea that I've seen in practicality, that maybe you wouldn't think of.
I know people want to get down in the weeds and get specific. I don't know if you guys do necessarily. But yeah, okay. So, but just to kind of keep in mind that the more down in the weeds you are, the more you could be hampering instead of helping. If you get too.
What can we do within rules writing to help the village be more transparent fiscally? Okay.
Just have to read the.
But honestly, I'm all for transparency, so anything.
Right, and I'd love to hear ideas for what can we do to make the money. I think that's where people really get upset, is when it's about the money.
Right,
And
and I don't know.
they feel like money is being spent that they don't understand, like,
Right.
Well, is,
If you come back in here real quick too, as you can see, this is from 2013 on. These are monthly reports. This is what I give to council every month. So let me just show you real quick what's in here. This is,
That's what you went over at the meeting.
yes, this first sheet right here is, these are all our funds. And this is the fund balance, each of those funds. So at the end of 2000, or at the end of February, for example, we had $2.5 million in total cash throughout every fund we have. Then this is revenue. This is our budgeted revenue. This is actual revenue year to date, and then what's remaining.
Well, since this was put up voluntarily, I guess we could, in the charter, mandate it.
This is all, every single fund.
And if we're gonna have a section in the administrative article on the fiscal officer, we can make it be a mandatory duty of the fiscal officer that they will make something like this publicly available.
It's all public
Yeah, it's all
record, that doesn't make
public
sense,
record.
that makes it
We gotta
easy.
figure out, yeah, we gotta figure out a way to make it be easily accessible.
We need a website for this.
Well, in 10 years down the road, somebody might decide not to do this, so we have to make sure.
which fund do you think is the most likely in any village, community, whatever, is most likely to be used?
Which fund?
Which fund or fund, return account, which one, you see, somebody, they gave that, and so, which one is the most likely that you were writing a charter that you would wanna watch out for? Or you wanna say, hey, before you spend from this chart, I want the person who's proposing to spend to tell me why, what the other options are, blah, blah, blah.
To be honest, where you often see fraudulent activity happening is usually not on the expense side, it's on the revenue side. And you see that on a cash flow. So a lot of places, for example, you have utility billing in-house instead of home stored for us. You see a lot, and I say a lot loosely, because it's not really prevalent, but when you see it happening, it's happening in these places. You see cash payments coming in for utility payments that are getting pocketed instead of posted. Or you see income taxes, like penalties, that somebody's paying a penalty and the clerk is pocketing it, writing off the penalty. Or one particular client that I worked with, they ended up, they would get these random rebate checks from like their pot sheet, they would get cash from that, and it would get pocketed instead of posted. So those are that's one for vending companies, so we don't have to always touching on at least. So, but those are the risk factors that I see. It's more of the cash collection point than the cash flow account point. It's much harder to
That's helpful.
embezzle money with cash flow account than it is to try and.
Confirming what Kim is saying, so obviously we're on video right now, so I can't name names, but my business partner, has done work for a municipality where they went through that exact issue. Their fiscal officer was mishandling basically, utility and, fine payments that were coming in the office, in that person was just not depositing the money. The checks were never getting deposited, it was being mishandled, and they didn't catch it for like 2 years. And so that entity had a lot of cleaning up to do once they figured out what was going on.
And I take it that most of the bills that the village receives, somebody's expecting, and those who the vendor is.
Yes.
And
Most, if they come from, the example of the police department, the bill goes to the chief first, he signs off on it, yes, this is okay, and then I review it and pay it.
so it's not like I don't know if you remember when they were sending out bogus utility bills and stuff. And some entities, including that, were just, it's a utility and just paying it, and it was money fraud.
If y'all have Netflix, recommend watching all the police forces. That is all the police forces. It's a very eye-opening government financial, something that happened out there in Illinois.
Have you ever worked anywhere, or would you recommend any kind of like mandatory internal audit process?
Most places that you see that have internal audit are much larger. For us, I don't know that that makes much sense because I'm really the only one that does it anyway.
So it would be expensive to have an outside firm come in to do an audit.
Which we have to have anyway.
Yeah, okay.
By state, right?
The state or someone in the state appoints.
Here's a practical question, just because I'm curious. Who prints the checks?
Who I do.
And who signs the checks?
I do in there.
Just curious.
And I have one question. What software do you use today?
It's called Uniform Accounting System, or Uniform Accounting Network for the state.
Regarding the 299 building, I would like to see, and I don't know if Kim agrees with this, or not, I don't know if we talked about it, but, that 1.6 or 7 million dollars was, that was just approved by council. So I think there ought to be, and there's reasons why, but I think that there ought to be a limit on the amount that can be put through as an emergency. And that if it's over, I don't know, what you want to say, several $100,000 or even $100,000, that it cannot be, except there must be some language about, okay, so a disaster recovery, but if it's not a disaster, it's a normal thing, that if you cannot push it through on one reading or waive all readings, and because that's what happened, was the readings were waived, and so people didn't have a lot of time to get the word out about the amount of money being spent. So I think I would have appreciated if something like that would be in the charter.
You're talking about the building and some of that was done in the building.
I'm saying just the fact that the council approved without 3 readings. And so therefore, they were going to then pass it as an emergency, which would have meant that no referendum opportunity was available to so I'd like to not have that be a.
I know Brian was pushing for that in our draft, and I think we kicked that can down the road a little bit.
Yeah, because we talked about emergency versus non-emergency really needed. So
I'm just
emergency
talking
being
about from the
first one.
definition that Kim was talking about, not a real emergency. Just
Right, no, that's what we were talking about,
rules.
so separating them, so the emergency had to be basically public safety or welfare. And if you want to do something else that's immediate, like the police, we have to caveat for that, we haven't really flushed it out.
Yeah, I know.
We're still working.
The feedback's perfect
A lot
timing.
of, yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, like, it's all in red and blue, like, we're working on that.
So that's a good reminder that it needs to be a check and a balance.
So is there like a fund that, your building fund or something like that, that you could say, there are funds appropriated for major infrastructure in the village, or whether they can never be written as an emergency, or capital expenditure, I like that term, capital expenditures.
So we have capital projects that would be a capital project fund that would be for a specific capital expense. The only concern I have with that, like, for example, we're getting ready to start the process of the phase 2 sewer repairs. So we've got that lined up right now. That's gonna be a capital projects fund because it's gonna be funded through the Public Works Commission. And that is something that the current schedule will go through 3 readings, but we also have it currently passed as an emergency, so it can go into effect immediately, so we can start immediately. So it's not an emergency per se because nothing's blown up and nothing's like leaking out of the streets, but it's an emergency to where we want to get it done this season and not wait until next year to do it.
There's 3 readings.
There will be, that's,
So if you had an immediate effect versus a 30-day waiting period, potentially.
But that's an expenditure to repair, infrastructure in the village. We go in that,
You may be aware that we had a community information gathering, and about 30 plus people came to it. We were happy, that was a good outcome. And we're trying to regularly share information, because it's hard to, educate the community and the citizens of the community about some of these details. I mean, what Dick said was great about, how can they read it and understand what it is, even if they can find it. So I'd like to just bring up to you that one of the people in that meeting early on said, could you explain to me, because they really didn't know what a charter was. We took, Randy was the speaker, and it was very systematically explained in very straightforward language. They were trying to get their head around it. Whereby we have another one. And I remember this woman asked a question right up front. How is this going to change or improve my life? How is this going to affect me? Which is really saying out loud what everybody in the room was wondering. And from your point of view, because you see both the detail in terms of the money and how all that movement, the money movement, as well as if it doesn't happen, what gets delayed or what doesn't get fixed in a sufficient amount of time that creates trouble. And I know we're going to get asked questions again about this. And I'd be interested in knowing if you have any suggestion around that, if you can help us articulate how managing the funds in a different way, or in a partnership that includes an administrator, could help people understand how that might speed up something they're interested in. I'll give you the easiest example. A couple of people who live by where I live I talk to all the time, are upset for this strange reason, but they're upset because they like the fountains that were in the little lakes. And they asked why the fountains went away, and we're told we can't afford them anymore. And they asked me about it, and I'm like, I'm not sure how to answer that. I didn't know what to say, and I asked them if they'd come to a coffee with council with me, and I'd help facilitate a conversation about it. So that could be an immediate way to fix it. But you made some reference to a line item that has to do with the fountains. Well, how would they know that? I didn't know it. I mean, there's funny little things like that that make a big difference for people in terms of how they see things, because they care about it. And
What's their thoughts on those films?
To run them out.
are we gonna get replacement fountains? Can I tell you? I don't know that.
That's not really, that's obviously not a fair question. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I thought she might know because of the budget.
No, well, yeah.
So that's, we should come to the council, tribal council.
Yeah, you're asking.
I'll bring them.
Political question. That.
Very innocently, I didn't know that was a political question.
That's all right, you were asking, is it in the budgets if it's not?
I was, very innocently, yes.
That's all right. All right. So we are here for 8:30, so that's about 25 minutes. I have a few housekeeping things just for charter commission. Is there anything else that we have for our fiscal officer?
Oh, no, Kim is available if you have questions.
Definitely, do you have fiscal, FISCAL, and Minerva Park is what you know. Easy to remember, so definitely email me any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them. Or call me, I'm here. So.
Do you want us to post your raise in the charter?
No. I would not complain.
Thank you very much for coming.
Is your direct number, on the website, or does it go through the main number?
It goes to the main number, my extension is 301.
Beautiful. Because I always get, recorded.
Yeah. 30, and I don't think fiscal's one of the choices, but 301 is my extension. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
General housekeeping items. We did not look at that in minutes.
I move that we table the minutes until next meeting to give people that aren't here a chance to also read them and weigh in, because they were at that meeting. A lot of people.
But next meeting, do you mean Sunday?
Sunday's work sessions are Thursday.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Good plan. That's meetings. We originally were aiming for April 6th for our public meeting. I don't think we're there in any way. Unless-
Unfortunately not. All of the articles still have, I mean, look, Article 3 has a lot of red still. Article 4 has a little bit of red. We did not discuss technical codes very much, and we didn't discuss the zoning measures at all.
So if we were to, going back to public meeting, if we were to make our next work session, which is Sunday, just going through what we have, not any new stuff, going through what we have.
And getting it all green,
Yes.
I think we could probably do that.
And that gives you time to draft.
My goal is by next Thursday to have 5 and 6 at least ready to go. That's mayor and administrator. If not all of it that has been reviewed so far. I gotta be honest with you, I haven't looked at the group's notes on Article 7 yet. I looked at them to the extent that I know they exist and I glanced, but I have not.
Which I didn't get to, so that's the only flaggers I realized. I didn't get to either.
There was a perfect storm of stuff for me over the last week and a half. I bought a building on Monday, and that has consumed a lot of time. So
Did you have, congratulations.
What you buy? What is it, the Falcon building?
commercial building for my law firm. But now that that's done, hopefully I'm gonna calm down a little bit, and I'm anticipating having more time to work on this. So
Okay, so for Sunday, articles, what were the numbers again? I'm so sorry.
I would like to see us finish up as much as humanly possible Articles 3 and 4. Articles 1 and 2 are done. 3 and 4 are council and legislative procedure. I have Article 5 mayor about, I would say, 1/2 to 2/3 done-ish. It's frankly a little complicated because of how we're doing some things. So,
Which one is about to do this?
mayor. Article, that'll be Article 5. Article 6 is not started.
So,
Let alone Article 7.
okay, so March 31st, Sunday, articles 3 and 4, we're gonna knock out the rest of the red envelopes.
So here's part of the problem. I have to leave by 11 on Sunday. I am so sorry, but I have to. I have a thing that's starting at 11:30 that I committed to months ago, and I just can't get out of it.
It might be good to get a head count, because I'm out of town this.
I won't be back from Columbus until 11. Sunday morning. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And some of the people that aren't here now may not be here, yeah.
Can we just give the Sunday a pass?
You know what?
Yeah, fine, go to the wedding.
Okay, so the 31st is out.
All right. Sorry, guys.
No,
That's-
no,
No,
we need to be
no.
honest.
Yeah, we have lives.
Even if you want to leave, just go to work.
Yes.
True.
All right, so Thursday, we're gonna knock out 3 and 4. And that's fine, that's April 4th. So that puts Sunday, April, well, hold on.
We get that meeting.
Sunday, April 7th,
Yeah.
we're not gonna have it. We got to, and we haven't advertised.
Oh, okay.
We ain't. So we, hold on, our 5 and 6 would be Sunday, 7th. That puts to Thursday, the 11th. That's my next one.
If we can be done with, if we can have 1 through 6, all green and agree to every section, I think we can present that to the public. Because that shows them council, mayor, and administrator, and the legislative procedure. That's a that's number one, that's already kind of a lot for people to digest, but number two, I feel like that's the meat and potatoes of the charter, frankly. We're downhill from there.
So we could do on Thursday, April 11th, review presentation, and then
That's one way to light a fire under our butts to get this thing done.
14th. Apparently, we're already moving out of it. April 14th for, I'm sorry.
Do you wanna just email us a calendar? You can't?
It's not.
Oh, perfect.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, you ain't gonna make it to that meeting.
Mm-mm. And the number one talking, if they're not doing it. for you.
Yeah.
I'm not available on April 13th, but I can do April 14th in the afternoon, separate Sunday, church busy.
Yeah, they are.
Is there another facility that we could use?
How many people do we anticipate coming? If it's gonna be 30 again, they won't fit in here, right?
Yeah, well, and here's the deal, isn't the 21st Easter?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
Why
we're,
was the 28th? People on the 10th.
Oh, that's true.
It's from 20.
Oh, no,
I don't
it's
find
good,
that.
because, I mean, we'll really get our stuff together in time to really look it over.
What are we looking at?
I'm sorry, 27th. I can do that 27th. Ah, see, we got one.
And that's the day before Easter,
No, that's Saturday after. Easter.
Saturday after Easter?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 weeks. Oh, no, okay, yeah, I'll go. That's great.
Okay, good.
There's an event that I don't wanna go to and just get.
Perfect, all right, so the 27th is what we're gonna aim for. As far as drafting a presentation, Kim, would you like to help with drafting the presentation as far as the PowerPoint? You're very good at organized thinking.
Perhaps. Well, because I'm made also these bags.
Something, eh?
Last time, all the bags we delivered to me was houses.
Oh, good stuff. Not this one.
That would be great.
So we're doing the 27th, we have to get everything, we aim to get bags, stuff Thursday before and
Now,
things laid out weekend before, however, that's Easter weekend.
I will not be in town Easter weekend.
we could be delivering on, which is not bad to be. I mean, if some people want to take a walk on, we don't do a lot on Easter Day. It'll be that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So Monday, Tuesday after Easter, yeah, we deliver them right before the meeting.